Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So, in just a couple weeks now, it's going to be time for E3. We didn't get E3 last year, but it's finally going to come back, and I'm super excited for that. But there's things happening in industry right now as well. Multiple games leaked out online over the weekend, including a multi-platform game that's a little smaller but very exciting, and then a big one for the Nintendo Switch. So we're definitely going to be talking about all of that today. Now, and then you also have the Nintendo Switch Pro that continues to leak out online. Of course, we've heard a lot about the Nintendo Switch Pro over the last year, and last week, rumors really started to ramp up as there was supposed to be a supposed Nintendo Switch Pro announcement. This was being reported by Bloomberg, and I believe it was Eurogamer, but we didn't really hear about it last week. However, it's starting to sound like we might hear about it this week, and we've even seen it leak out with a notable retailer. So we're going to be talking about that today and whether or not that Switch Pro will be announced this week. Now, with that said, let's just get right into the news, and we're going to start off today with Nier Replicant for the Nintendo Switch. Now, this game launched last month for the Xbox and PlayStation consoles, and after years of people saying how good this was, it finally got remastered for current generation consoles, but the Switch was not included. Now, there was a Amazon listing, it was on Amazon France last year for Nier Replicant, but it never ended up happening. However, what's interesting is that over the weekend, a Datamine uncovered a Nintendo Switch reference for Nier Replicant. So according to this Datamine, they did unearth references to the Enix graphics settings within the game's code, which is, now if you don't know what Enix is, that is the code name for the Nintendo Switch. But yes, there is a reference to the NX within Nier's code. And that is very interesting. So not only do you have this Amazon France listing from last year, but now we're also seeing a reference of the Nintendo Switch within the code. Now, does this mean that Nier Replicant will be coming to the Switch? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could. It is possible that Nier Replicant will come to the Nintendo Switch at a later date. But that doesn't mean that this is confirmation either. It could also mean that they originally were planning to release this on a Nintendo Switch, but decided not to and later scrapped it. But it is interesting that they at least considered it. So, do I think it's possible that they could port it to the Switch in the future? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, they will have to downgrade it because, this is a remake and it does look good on modern consoles. But, we've also seen The Witcher 3 do something like this. They majorly downgraded that game and got it working on the Switch. So I can't really rule out the possibility that maybe Nier Replicant makes its way to the Switch. And this would be a great Switch Pro title. But at the same time, I do think that there is a very strong possibility that, yes, they did cancel the Switch version. I know that's unfortunate, but I think that's possibly what we're seeing here. Just know that this isn't confirmation, but, you never know. Let's see what happens. Moving on, let's talk about PlayStation Now as they continue to improve their overall lineups each and every month. And this month might be one of their better lineups that I've seen as of yet. Yeah, the June lineup for PlayStation Now is actually pretty good. Let's go check it out. You have Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, Slay the Spire, Car Mechanic Simulator, and The Witcher 3. Yeah, that's a pretty good lineup overall. I mean, all these games, for the most part, are pretty good. I mean, Sonic Forces, not exactly one of the best Sonic games in the world, but, overall, this is a really good lineup. Team Sonic Racing, I personally think is one of the better kart racers that you can play right now. Sonic Mania, of course, is an excellent old-school Sonic game. Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, that's a big one. I mean, that one, it launches, tomorrow? So you can get it in now PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus day one. So that's a pretty good title to have there. Then you have Slay the Spire. Fans absolutely love that game. And of course, The Witcher 3 is one of the best RPGs ever made. But anytime that you talk about PlayStation Now, you have to read the fine print. And yes, The Witcher 3 is only going to be available until September 6th, which is 4 months from now? I'm sorry, it's going to be a little over 3 months. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of PlayStation Now continuously doing these very limited releases. That is the biggest downfall that I see with PlayStation Now right now. They have been putting good games into PlayStation Now here recently, but they need to do better with those limited releases. I would personally like to see them get that up to 12 months for every single game. And this is just my opinion, but when you're talking about a subscription service, you have limited amount of time. Okay, let's say there's 100 plus games in a subscription service. You're not going to be able to play all 100 of those games. It's just not going to happen. Now, you'd have to play like 24/7 for you to be able to play every single game in that list. But you would like to be able to play each game that you want to in a reasonable time frame. And because these titles are so limited, it's hard to play them. So now you're going to have to make the hard choice. Do I play Virtua Fighter 5 right now, or do I play The Witcher 3? Because The Witcher 3 is only going to be available for 3 months. Maybe I should play that first because it's only going to be there for a very short period of time. So that's the problem I have with these limited time releases. They're just not giving their fans enough time to play all the games that they want to. And every single month, they've been doing this with these limited time releases. Yeah, they're good games, but there's just no time to play them. So I would like to see PlayStation Now improve on that front. But overall, I think this is a really good lineup for PlayStation Now in June. So definitely check out these games. Let's talk about Dragon Quest for a moment, though, because last week they had that Dragon Quest 35th anniversary stream where they announced all those different Dragon Quest games. You had Dragon Quest 12, you had Dragon Quest 10 offline, and one that actually really stood out to me was Dragon Quest 3 2D HD. Now, this is the old Dragon Quest 3 game being built in the same engine that Octopath Traveler uses, and it looks phenomenal. I really think this game visually looks great, and this is going to make a lot of Dragon Quest fans really happy. But this also begs the question, what about the other Dragon Quest games? Is it possible that we could see remakes of older Dragon Quest games as well? What about 1 and 2 as an example? Well, actually, about that, the Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii had this to say. Maybe afterwards, we may remake Dragon Quest 1 and 2, so maybe 1 and 2 would be some kind of unexpected surprise. And then later on, he also had this to say, we want to, but it's not official yet. So yeah, it does sound like that Yuji Horii and Square Enix might consider doing more remakes with the Dragon Quest franchise going forward, using that Octopath Traveler engine. That would be a great way of bringing these games back. Now, I don't know if the stories and the gameplay has aged particularly well. They would probably have to modernize that a little bit better. But you know what I think Square Enix really needs to do? Yes, Dragon Quest is a great franchise and all. I'm super happy for you Dragon Quest fans out there. But what about Square Enix's flagship franchise, Final Fantasy? It would be amazing to see older Final Fantasy games come back with that Octopath Traveler engine. I mean, can you imagine Final Fantasy VI, one of the most beloved games of all time, come back with similar visuals as Octopath Traveler? That would be amazing. Nonetheless, at the very least, it does look like there is a possibility that we could get a Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. Let me know what you think about all this, though. Would you like to see Square Enix do this with more of their older games? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about that Nintendo Switch Pro yet again, though. I know some of you all are probably a little tired about hearing about the Nintendo Switch Pro, but this thing just continues to leak out online. And guess what? Over the weekend, the Nintendo Switch Pro, amidst all of these rumors right now, popped up on Amazon Mexico. Now, this wasn't the only Nintendo Switch leak over the weekend. We'll get a little bit more into that here in just a moment. But yes, the Nintendo Switch Pro popped up on Amazon Mexico and was later taken down. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the Nintendo Switch Pro is absolutely happening. I mean, sometimes these listings pop up on these retailers, they get taken down as some kind of mistake, and nothing ever happens with that. But then at other times, yeah, these listings end up being the real deal, and amidst all of these imminent Switch Pro rumors, yeah, I think that there's a possibility that this is the real deal. And you know what? It could be announced as early as this week. Now, last week we heard the announcement was imminent. They did not. The only person that I saw suggest that it would be announced last week was Emily Rogers. I never really saw anybody else actually say that. But the rumor is that the Nintendo Switch Pro will be announced before E3. And the reason for that is it allows all these other companies to announce their Switch Pro games. I'm sure there's going to be certain companies that are holding back on these announcements because, you know, they don't want to announce their game and then at the end it show a Switch Pro logo or whatever it's going to be called. You know, so they're holding off on those reveals for that reason. And that right there is exactly why Nintendo is going to want to announce this Switch Pro before E3. And now there's a prominent leaker by the name of Nick over on the Xbox Air podcast saying that the Switch Pro will be announced this Thursday. Now, he is saying that it could possibly be moved back, but from what he's hearing, the Switch Pro will be announced this Thursday. And I'm not going to say that I believe that or don't believe that. I really don't know. But I do think there is a real possibility that, yes, the Switch Pro is announced this week. We're all going to be kind of on alert to this every single day. And I will let you guys know as soon as we hear about something like that. What I will say, though, is yes, I absolutely do believe the Switch Pro exists. We've been hearing about this for a long period of time, and yeah, we're going to get that announcement real soon, and I'm definitely excited about that. Now, what we do know from the rumors is that this device will output to 4K while docked, and it will also have a 7-inch OLED screen, which that's what I'm personally really excited about. But yeah, either way, I do think that we're going to get that Switch Pro announcement here real soon, and this Amazon Mexico leak just further points to an imminent Nintendo Switch Pro reveal. Now, that wasn't the only Nintendo Switch-related leak over the weekend, as, yeah, Metroid, we've been hearing a lot about Metroid as well over the last year. We've talked a lot about it on this channel. Mercury Steam, I've said it over and over again, Mercury Steam is working on a 2D Metroid game. They worked on Samus Returns for the 3DS. Amazing game, by the way. Definitely go check that out. The release time for that game was terrible, though. It should have always been available on the Nintendo Switch, but yes, it was a 3DS exclusive. Regardless, though, they did a good job, and it does sound like they are working on a 2D Metroid game for the Switch. This time it'll have a much better chance of success, thankfully. But over on Walmart, a Metroid listing has now appeared. And now there were already a lot of rumors and leaks pointing to a Metroid announcement at this year's E3. But with that said, it has been confirmed that this Metroid listing on Walmart has been there for a long time. It did not just pop up. It's actually been there since the announcement of Metroid Prime 4. So this isn't, sadly, yeah, this is nothing new. However, this did allow the trusted Nintendo insider Samus Hunter to talk about Metroid over on Twitter, and Samus Hunter did say that a new Metroid is in development and it'll release sometime in September or October. Now, Samus Hunter did say that they don't know the lineup of titles that will be unveiled at E3, but Samus Hunter is convinced that we will see it there, and I do think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Nintendo's E3 is starting to sound really good. So first off, we have the Nintendo Switch Pro. We just talked about that. That's going to be huge this year. But then also, supposedly, they're going to be revealing a new Donkey Kong game there. They're going to possibly have Metroid there. And then, on top of that, you have all these Zelda games looming. You have Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. That game will probably be revealed here. They might show an updated trailer of Pokemon Legends Arceus. If there's going to be any game that's going to benefit from a Switch Pro reveal, it's going to be Pokemon Legends Arceus. That first trailer was a little rough around the edges, but they could show an updated Switch Pro version of that, and it could be vastly improved. So yeah, Nintendo's E3 this year sounds absolutely excellent. I just cannot wait for E3. Hey, just 2 weeks to go. E3 is right around the corner. I mean, we're only 2 weeks away, so yeah, let's mark our calendars. Definitely very exciting stuff. Now, before I go, we do need to talk about one more game leak, and we'll talk about this one just real brief, and that is for 2 Point Campus. Yes, Sega is working on yet another 2 Point game, but instead of it being a 2 Point hospital where you create your own hospital, you'll be making a college campus. And that's actually pretty interesting. Now, first off, 2 Point Hospital is a great game. Okay, people really seem to like that game a lot. You can make your own hospital. It's got a good sense of humor, and it's just a fun overall game. And you could really do a lot with that, making your own college campus. That would be a lot of fun. This game could potentially be hilarious with all the different college scenarios that you could end up making with a 2 Point campus. Now, the way this game actually leaked out online was through the Microsoft Store, so this is a legitimate leak. This is not coming from some, insider. This is a legitimate leak. Several pictures have leaked out online, and it was listed on the Microsoft Store. So this is absolutely going to happen. It's just a matter of when will this be announced, rather than if it will be announced. I will say this, though. I do think that Microsoft should probably try to get this fixed up. We see this problem over on Sony's end as well, but it does seem like Sony and the PlayStation Store and the Microsoft Store does have a tendency of leaking out some games early. It was just last week, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown leaked out on the PlayStation Store over in Japan. And then, a game like Kingdom of Amalur Re-Reckoning, leaked on the Microsoft Store last year. I mean, this type of stuff just keeps happening, and it has to be disheartening for these developers to have their game leak out early on these official stores. Maybe they should, try to get that fixed up. But nonetheless, Two Point Campus is a thing, and it will be announced relatively soon. This game has a lot of potential, so if you like 2 Point Hospital, I definitely could see you liking 2 Point Campus. Now, we also need to take a look at the poll of the day, as I asked you all, what is the most you would be willing to spend for a Switch Pro if it does indeed get revealed? Which, again, I do believe it absolutely will. But the results here was kind of all over the place. 20% of you said $300, 21% of you said $350, while 23% of you said $400. And then you also had 31% of you saying that you're just not interested. And looking through the comments, there was a few different reasons for this. One being the Xbox Series S, also being $300. And having the Switch Pro placed at something like $400 would be a little bit more of a hard sell with that Xbox Series S on the market. I don't know if I really view it that way, because the Nintendo Switch Pro would be a handheld console, and that could be worth it for a lot of people, just having a handheld as powerful as the Switch. So I don't really view it as competition for something like the Xbox Series S. That's just my view on things. But something that you all did point out is that you don't necessarily care for the 4K aspect of the Switch Pro rumor, but instead you would want to see consistent 60 frames per second on a Switch Pro. You want more games to be 60 frames per second. And that actually is a good point. I've always preferred frame rate over resolution myself, so that is a good point. Though I will say the thing that I'm most looking forward to with the Switch Pro is not necessarily the 4K either. The thing that I'm really excited about with the Nintendo Switch Pro is that OLED screen. I'm telling you all, if you all played that original PlayStation Vita, that thing had an OLED screen, and it looks amazing. So if you could have a Switch Pro, which, the Switch just has a much larger library than something like the PlayStation Vita, with that OLED screen, that is going to be a big improvement. I'm telling you all will notice a big improvement with a OLED screen alone. So that's what I'm really excited for with a Switch Pro. But yeah, it does seem like opinions are kind of all over the place with this Switch Pro and the price that they should list it at. I think that $300 would be the smart decision here, especially if the rumor is true that they're going to phase out the original Switch. But I could see them moving it up to try, let's say $350. We'll see what happens with all this, but, I'm just going to kind of repeat what I said last week. If this thing comes out, and if you're even slightly interested, pay attention to the pre-orders and pre-order that thing immediately, because this thing will sell out, and if it does, there's a chance that you will not get one at all this holiday. So pre-order it, and if you decide you don't want it, cancel it later on. That's just my suggestion. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you like the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.